speaking of transformation, Ryan has an amazing story. He's got amazing energy. He wants to share a welcome with us and also talk about living a life of abundance. So Ryan, I'm gonna pin you up at the top, and if you can unmute, introduce yourself to our audience.
Hello, everybody. So thank you so much for having me. And I just want to say thank you to my good friend, mentor and coach, Marco, for his incredible, wonderful words of wisdom there. So I hope somebody could take something away from what Marco said. And I also hope you can take something away from what I'm about to say. So my name is Ryan Nurse, and I am a traumatic brain injury survivor and thriver who's also suffered from and overcome depression after a relationship breakup. I took my life from depression to progression and now use my wounds as wisdom to help confused adults discover, design, and live their dream lives. So just before we begin today, I'd like to ask some people a question or two to use in the chat here. So in complete honesty, please, I want to ask you people is how well, or maybe not so well, did you think 2023 went for you guys? Just put in the chat there, like if you feel like you could have done better or it went really well, or if it went not so good, actually, like just be totally honest with me. Pretty good. Nice. Okay, so we have challenging as well there. So the next question would be then, how excited or nervous or confused, for instance, are you feeling going into 2024? Because obviously the new year is approaching. How excited or confused or worried or scared, for instance, are you feeling going into the new year? Well,
and just to add, I think, Ryan, most people are here because they are looking to either improve something or change something in their life. They want to have the breakthrough, right? Is that where you're going with this?
Exactly that. So look, I hope today I can share some words with you guys today from my own journey to not only want you to make you want to change your lives, to inspire you to change your lives, but to actually take the required action steps that are needed in order to make those changes. So let me just untangle a bit about myself, my story, and we're going to move through this process. So back in 2011, as an 18-year-old boy, I was attacked on the way home from a nightclub. And what happened? I went to this nightclub with some friends, for instance, and we were dancing, the music was pumping, the drinks were flowing, and we was dancing the night away. We were having literally the best time of our lives, but only until we decided to go home. So just before leaving, there was a bit of an argument in the nightclub. So me and my friends decided we're gonna make our way home and go, say, back to our parents' homes. And we left the nightclub into the car park, and we noticed that these older guys, like the lads, as you say, the sort of lads that were arguing, they followed us younger lads out. And we got into the taxi, and they literally removed us from the taxi. So after a short disagreement, we decided it would be wise to take a separate taxi back to the safety of our parents' home. We got in this taxi, we left, we turned left, and we turned left again onto a dark, unlit road. And straight away, we noticed that those bright white headlights filled the interior of our taxi, and it was those same guys that just removed us from the taxi that we was in before. And suddenly, out of nowhere, this loud, angry voice come through to our driver's walkie-talkie, demanding that we pull over. And our driver began to slow down and stop. And we was confused. We was asking him, "Why are you stopping?" But there was no answer. He just pulled up onto the pavement and he stopped the vehicle. And that same vehicle with those angry guys behind us pulled up behind us, and they switched the lights off. And then there was this eerie sound of silence where me and my friends were looking at each other, confused, worried, scared, thinking, what's going to happen next? And then there was this loud knock on the passenger front window. And my friend opened the window to see what the problem was. But as he opened the window, he began to get punched. So I panicked and I opened my door to try and stop this madness. But as I did, I was greeted with the same fist. I'm sat there in the seat with the seatbelt locked to me, and I was glued to the back of the chair like a sitting duck. This guy was just pummeling me in the left side of the temple, and I was desperately trying to undo the buckle, and I couldn't do it. And I was so desperate, just trying to get this undone. And at one point, I was thinking, Ryan, this is how you are going to die. But luckily for me, I managed to undo the buckle. I managed to open the driver's rear door, and I run down a separate road, and I called a friend to come and pick me up. And as he picked me up about 5 or 10 minutes later, we're driving now back to my parents' home. And my heavy head was just spinning. I couldn't keep it in the air. And my friends were adamant that they would take me to hospital. But I just told them, no, I want to go home to bed. I just want to go back to bed. The last thing I remember was walking up to the front door of my parents' home. I put my hand on the handle and I walked through. But then sadly for me, my parents failed to wake me up later that morning. And because of that, I had to be rushed into hospital, where I suffered from a fractured skull and a blood clot due to a bleed on the brain. I had to be put into an induced coma, and I was in the intensive care unit. And I was in that coma, and my parents got to see me that evening. And doctors were telling my parents that it wasn't looking hopeful. 3 days in, the doctors invited my parents to the hospital, and they said, because there is zero brain activity, Ryan is completely brain dead, we would highly suggest that you switch his life support machine off. So just imagine that for anyone that's a parent out there. If a doctor or a specialist said that to your children, how horrible must that have been for my parents? I can only imagine what was going through their minds. Over those next few days in that coma, I started to make slight improvements. And the doctors and specialists again told my parents I was unlikely to wake up. And if I did, I would never walk or talk again and be in a vegetative state for the rest of my life. After about a week, I did wake up. And again, over the following days and weeks, I managed to make enough progress to the point they released me from the hospital and they sent me home. And then it was a long progress over many weeks and months to make that recovery. But I did start to say fit back into normal life. And I'm using air quotes here, normal life, because that's exactly what I done. I had this whole traumatic event in my life, and I just started to slide back into what was normal. I started to go back to that same job that I didn't enjoy. I started to hang around with the same people that were doing the opposite to me. They were drinking, smoking, drugs, etc. I just fit back into that normal life. And it was so uncomfortable. And I'm a big believer that the true meaning of suffering in life is when your actions contradict your dreams and desires. And I knew deep down my soul was telling me this wasn't a life for me, but I was just going straight back into what I knew was comfortable, what was familiar. But very soon after, I met the girl of my dreams, and it was just like this angel come from above into my life, and she totally transformed my life. She started to take me out to these weird and wonderful places, and we started to go traveling all around England and started to go on holidays. I'd never been abroad in my life. Before you know it, was jet setting here, there, and everywhere around the world. And years went by, and me and my girlfriend, we was living this life that society says is perfect. We had the house, the cars, the holidays, but this perfect life, it wasn't so perfect at all. It didn't really exist. In all honesty, it felt forced sometimes. And I was just working in that job that I didn't enjoy just to pay for this perfect lifestyle, the lifestyle that society insists we need in order to be happy, in order to be successful, in order to be perfect. I had it all at a young age. Everyone looking in from an outsider's point of view, telling me you're living the dream life. But this dream life felt more like a nightmare. 2018, me and my girlfriend decided to go on 5 holidays abroad, the most trips away we'd ever do. We decided to do this huge extension on our house also. And again, people looking at me like, how are you doing this? And I was just working my ass off every single day to pay for this materialistic lifestyle that I thought I needed to have. But you know what? It got to the end of 2018 and we got back from our last trip abroad. And my partner of over 6.5 years said to me, we should stop spending as much time with each other. And for me, deep down, my heart was breaking, but my heart was telling me it was all going to be okay. My soul knew something was wrong. My intuition, my gut feeling knew something deep down was wrong. but my heart was just trying to convince my brain that it would all be okay. Before you know it, I spent Christmas alone, and then we're now into 2019. I spent my birthday alone, February. Me and my girlfriend had a trip in March, booked to go backpacking around Cape Town. She said she didn't want to go. But just 2 days before we were meant to leave, I walk into a restaurant and I see her sat there with another guy. And in that moment, my heart shattered into a million pieces. But it was also this huge sense of liberation. This weight had been lifted off my shoulder. Because, you know, in that very moment, I realized that you can't control, or we can't control, other people's thoughts, opinions, words, or actions. And we can only control the meaning and the response that we give to them. So I walked out of that restaurant, and only just a couple of days after, I went on my first ever solo trip to South Africa. I felt like a new man. I felt on top of the world. I thought I could achieve anything in my life. But only until the moment when I walked back home, when I got back home and I walked through that front door. Because in that moment, two things that I absolutely hated was my own company and the sound of silence. And when I walked through that door after returning from Cape Town, I broke down in complete tears. Because in that moment, I realized the two things that I hated was all I had. And every single day from then was like a Groundhog Day, to the point where I was on this deep downhill spiral of depression where every day got worse. I soon turned to drink and drugs, trying to find this happiness in every single place, but other than from within myself. And I was so desperate for happiness, I was doing these horrendous things every day, every weekend. And before you know it, I realized what I was doing and how I was destroying my body. And I realized that I had to take myself to see my doctor. I booked an appointment with the doctor, and I'd never seen this doctor before. And as I went in there, she was so quick to push that prescription across the desk to say that you are depressed. So I walked away with that prescription, not feeling any better. And I had a prescription for antidepressants, which I knew nothing about. But I decided that I didn't want to take the antidepressants because I believed in that moment that I hadn't yet exhausted all avenues. So I waited a week, and then I booked another appointment where they suggested I try CBT therapy, cognitive behavior therapy. And I thought this was amazing. So I done it, and just a handful of weeks in, it was making me feel worse, in all honesty. So I lied myself out of it. I remember on that Friday, I was on the call with the therapist, and she asked me how I'm feeling. And I told her there and then, I feel on top of the world. I felt the best I've ever felt in a while, and I don't need to have any of these conversations with her anymore. Deep down, she knew I was lying, but she couldn't do anything to change my mind. So I lied my way out of that. And then that evening, I went back to my home, and I planned to kill myself the very next day. I remember I woke up on that Saturday morning, and I knew exactly what I was going to do. I sat slumped on the sofa, just waiting to do it. But you know, I had that shoulder devil and shoulder angel. And that devil was just telling me, go on, Ryan, you're scared. You're always scared. You never take action. Go on, do it, do it. And then I had the angel telling me, don't do it. Think of your family. Think of the people that are going to miss you. Remember your biggest fear. Because in that moment, my biggest fear was death. And I managed to use my fear in my favor. Because the fear of death caused me to procrastinate. And in that moment of procrastination, one single thought came into my mind, and it completely transformed my life. Out of nowhere, that thought came into my mind, and it said, could I live with the thought of dying with regrets? And I held on to that thought like a magnet, and I repeated it over and over again. Could I live with the thought of dying with regrets? Because only just a few years back, I was laying there on that hospital bed with zero brain activity. I was brain dead. But if I can overcome this, surely I can overcome anything. And in that moment, I started to look around me, because there and then I thought my life was like living in hell. Like I was stuck in this prison, which I call a home. Getting up and going to work every day was like going to hell. I had to check in at hell every single day to pay for my membership in prison, which was that home. But then I started to look around me, and I started to realize that I had everything around me that society wants. I had a roof over my head. I had food in the fridge. I had clothes on my back, and I had shoes on my feet. There were so many people living out there on that cold, hard concrete, which would have happily traded places with me. And I'm sat there upset, angry, because all these things were going on, and they weren't even that bad. So I started to look at what I had, not what I didn't have. I started to count my blessings rather than my problems. And I started to focus on the good rather than the bad. Because what you focus on in life expands. You get more of what you focus on. So I just focused on all of the good things I had in my life. Before you know it, I started to make these small improvements, and I started to attract these amazing things into my life. And I started to transform my life over that next year period. And, you know, it got to the point where I did start to rebuild my life, but even better than from before. And I quit that job that I hated. I started to do my own thing. I started to surround myself with my type of people. And then people started to say to me back then, looking back, are you not pissed off? Are you not upset? Are you not angry with those people who once caused you pain? And, you know, of course I was. At one point, I was so angry with those people that I once believed were the source of my suffering. But, you know, in life, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. You can either be a victim or a victor of your past. And if you're still suffering today, then I'm sorry to say that you are a volunteer. But that word that I just used there, anger. Anger is such a strong word. Anger is one letter away from the word danger. Anger is the wind that blows out the lamp of the mind. And holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. But forgiveness is the antidote. So you need to forgive others, not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. Because if you hold on to that past pain, it may just hold you back there forever. So for me, I flipped it for gratitude. I'm so grateful for all of those people that I believe were the source of my suffering, for all those people that really hurt me in the past. I'm so grateful for them, because if it wasn't for them, I would not be in the place where I am today. But, you know, life's not about being angry, people. Like, life is so short to waste it on being angry for people. Life is meant for living. You know, whilst I was in that coma, I wasn't conscious to decide whether to switch my life support machine off or not. And it was totally in somebody else's control. But I've noticed that many people who are alive and well have unconsciously pulled the plug on their own life. Because death is not the greatest loss in life. The greatest loss is what dies inside us while we live. So many people die at 25, but aren't buried until 75. And the graveyard is one of the wealthiest places on this earth. Just imagine all of those undiscovered and unused talents, skills, and abilities that cease to exist. All of those would haves, could haves, and should haves that the world never had exposure to. And I personally don't want to perish filled with potential. But the truth is, we've all been dying since the day we were born. Nobody's getting out of this alive. Like, death is inevitable. So why are we not running towards our dream life as if we were on fire? But when is it that people really start to live their lives? From my own experience, I believe it's when they face death, a lost loved one, an incurable illness. And then suddenly they want to go out there and do all the things that they've always ever wanted to do. But please believe me when I say that you don't have to wait for somebody you know to become seriously ill or die in order to take action today and go after what you truly want in life. Don't ever fear failure. Fear regret. Make the pain of regret worse than any other pain that you could ever imagine. Because the pain of fear and failure is temporary. But the pain of regret will last a lifetime. So anyone on this today, I challenge you to go out there and go and start living and creating that life that you dream and desire. Don't let, say, another year, don't let 2024 go by and not say, take the required action steps to say, move closer towards your desired destination. Don't put off or procrastinate on taking the required action steps to move closer to what it is that you really want. How many of us have done it? I've done it. I sat there for a year before. I sat there for over a decade in a job that brought me no sense of joy, purpose, meaning, or fulfillment because I was procrastinating. I never took the action steps. Because in life, not many things are 100% guaranteed. But two things are: we're all born and we will all die. But it's what we do with the opportunity between these two events that really matter most. So throughout this, say, one-time priceless opportunity of life that we have, you can either give it all you got, or you can go with all you got. But the great thing about this, people, is the choice is completely yours. It's up to you whether you want to decide to go all out or stay stuck in that comfort zone. But just know this: your comfort zone is where your dreams go to die. So break out of that comfort zone and start creating the life of your dreams. Make the choice today to make the change. Because if nothing changes, then nothing changes. But it's in your moments of decisions that your destiny is shaped. So I just want to leave you with one question, people. One question from what I've said today. Just think about this. From last year, from the previous years, from the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years of your life, have you been living the dream life that you want or not? And the question is that I want to leave you with today is, how would you feel this time next year being in exactly the same position as you are today? So my name is Ryan. I hope someone's taken something away from this today. I appreciate you all. If you have any questions at all, please drop them in the comments or jump on and ask me now. Thank you.
Yeah, guys, Ryan is available for a few more minutes. If you have any direct questions, Ryan, you're just amazing. I've said it to you before. I'll say it again. And each time you tell your story, little bits come out a little different here and there. Ryan is traveling the world right now, spreading the message, helping young adults to find direction in their life. And it's amazing, Ryan. And the progress that I've seen him make in the past 6 months is amazing. So amen. Follow him on Instagram, guys. You won't be sorry. Ryan, you have a new book coming out, and also do you have a freebie, a free gift they can go and get?
Yeah, sure. So thank you again for your amazing words. I really do appreciate you. And again, I appreciate everybody for being here and listening today. I hope someone can take something away from this. Yeah, so please connect with me on Instagram. I love you for you to connect with me. It's at Ryan Nurse _ RyanNurse _ Ryan Nurse _ Connect with me there. Just tell me that you heard me speak today, and yeah, we're going to connect. Any questions, feel free there as well. My book is just about to be released over the next few weeks, which is titled Sort Your Shit Out: How to Build a Life of Your Dreams. I've literally dumped everything that I've learned throughout my life. It's all in there in an easy to digest, consume and implement into your life. All the tools and tricks and secrets that I have over all these years. So it's in the book. I have a waiting list if you did want to jump on the waiting list, and you're going to get emails, you're going to get everything to get you on that right track on your path to purpose. And yes, I do have a freebie. If anyone wants to download the freebie, visit freeguide.ryannurse.com. That is freeguide.ryannurse.com.
All right. And so, guys, if you have any questions for Ryan, maybe you were in a similar situation, maybe something happened, some traumatic event, and you yourself, maybe you were in the hospital, maybe you had a breakup, a loss. I remember my first breakup, and it was very traumatic. Like you had heard about someone breaking your heart, but it really hit heavy on me, right? Even now, it's like, wait a minute, is that somehow tied to my decisions today because I don't want to be hurt again? I think it is, but another day, that's another topic. But does anybody have any questions for
even if anyone has any questions about, say, if they're in a job, in a career, for instance? Because like I said, I was in there for over 10 years, over a decade. I was 13 years in the end in one job. I was a car mechanic for 13 years. I've done it just because society told me it was the path to go. But again, my soul was screaming, get out. And I procrastinated and I let fear stop me for way over a decade. Yeah.
Ryan, I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So what, I know that, by the way, your story is amazing. You're an amazing storyteller. I was just on the edge of my seat. Just what happened next? What happened next? And I wanna ask you, when you transition, I know in your mind you said, okay, that's it. I gotta move forward. What were it's kind of the two baby steps that you had to make, right? Or were you just full on fire? I'm out of here.
Okay, so thank you for your amazing question. So for me, there was no baby steps. So it was all in. It was making that one decision. One decision can literally transform your life. Listen to this. So it's coming up to Christmas now. We all heard of New Year's resolutions. They don't do anything. Trust me, they do not do anything. Every time I set a New Year's resolution, it was to quit the job. I've done it for over a decade. I'm going to quit this year. I'm going to quit this year. I never took the action steps because if you just think about it, you're never going to do it. You need to take the action steps. There's in life three types of what I call ATs. There's action thinkers, action talkers, and action takers. And there's only one person that's ever going to achieve their goals. So for me, I let the fear stop me from achieving it. But I made a quote a while back, and it says it's more of a sentence. It's not really a quote. Well, it is a quote, and it goes like this: the moment you realize the pain of staying the same exceeds the pain of change is the exact moment your actions will overcome your anxieties. Because the moment you realize that I'm going to be stuck in this same place for another year, another decade, the rest of my life, as soon as you realize that and you think, I'm not comfortable with this, you're going to take the uncomfortable action. But just know, in life, there's always signs, and look out for those signs. They're warning signs which are warning you to take the action steps to move away from that. That's the pain. Because pain is a messenger trying to tell you that what you're currently doing isn't quite right, that you should have a different approach or try something new. So pain shows up like this, I believe. Three ways. First of all, it tickles you like a feather. And I had that tickle for years. Ryan, like a little tickle on a feather. Ryan, do something about this. Ryan, oh, it didn't hurt. It was just ticklish. I'll just ignore that. And then it was like a fist, a little punch in the arm. Every single day. I wake up in the morning, I'm getting punched in the arm. Throughout the day, punched in the arm. Ryan, come on, Ryan, do something. No, it's not that bad. I can deal with that. It doesn't hurt too much. I just ignored it. 10 years, I ignored it. 13 years come. Bam. Out of nowhere, the 10-ton truck comes and it wipes my life completely out. My girlfriend breaks up with me. We sell our house. My whole life comes crashing down. And that's the messenger saying, look, I'm here. I've been telling you for years and you wasn't listening. But from now, I'm coming from a place of desperation because I do not get the choice to change. I have to change or I stay in that place of pain for the rest of my life. So I thought it's either stay here in this pain or it's to take the uncomfortable action steps now and make massive changes. And my only option was to make the change. So I had to make the decision there and then. And I just changed. And after I made that decision, everything just started to come to my life, and I'm where I am today because of that one decision. So I hope that's answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I just want everyone to think about this. The time that Ryan had lost waiting for something to click, waiting for something to feel better, waiting for him to feel better about it, it didn't happen. And, maybe you've been in jobs, maybe you've been in situations like that. And it's not easy to change, right? That when you get that punch in the arm and you know it's there and you just say, okay, maybe tomorrow will be better. And it always comes back. So if you've got that nagging feeling that something needs to change, the sooner you recognize it, the sooner you can do, as Ryan said, and live that life of your dreams and get on that path to transform, align with your authentic self, right? So Ryan, you're traveling, you're in where? Costa Rica right now?
Colombia right now.
Colombia. So you're making your way around the world. And how is that? I've been in US all my life. How is that traveling? And
so for me, I told you in my story here, before meeting my girlfriend, I'd never been abroad in my whole life. So meeting her, I started to go abroad with her around the world, many different places. And then after the breakup started to happen, I walked into the restaurant. 2 days later, I had the choice, go by myself or don't go at all. So I made that, again, an uncomfortable decision, which was to go to Cape Town by myself. If I wouldn't have made that decision, I would have been stuck in that job. I would have been stuck living that life that I hated. I would be, if I would have never made that choice. You know, you make the choice, you make the change, and your life can transform. Just one choice, one action. That's all it takes. Because an object in motion usually stays in motion. I made that one uncomfortable action, that choice, that decision. As soon as I done it, I transformed my life. So for me, after say making that decision, I set myself these travel goals. After I say come out of the house, we sold the house, for instance. When I started to level up my life, I started to travel different country every month for a year. Then COVID cut in. It wiped out all of my travel plans. I'd done 7 countries in the year prior. 2020, I said I'll do 20 countries. I booked 15. They all got wiped out. I went to 1. I went to Rome. Come back COVID. Blessing in disguise. Sadly, people lost family members, for instance. But for me, it allowed me to open my eyes up, to pause. There's so much power in the pause. And I stopped and I started to evaluate my life. And I said, this isn't the life that I want to be living. And then I started to take those action steps and I started to create the life of my dreams. And then before you know it, the year after, 2022, I made another uncomfortable action step, which was to book a one-way ticket to Mexico. I flew to Mexico the week after making that decision. And I just left everything behind. I went from Mexico, made my whole way down through every single country to Brazil. I flew back up to Peru, made my way down the Amazon River, done some crazy stuff in the Amazon jungle for a handful of days. And then I flew back up to my favorite country in the world, which is where I am now, Colombia. So I've been here for the last few months. I spend Christmas, New Year's here. Next year, I'm probably going to spend 6 months here on and off. I don't really know what the plan is. Maximum I can spend here is 6 months. So I'll probably be working again, doing my bits from Colombia now. This is my home. I feel this is my home now. So I say to anyone, stay in the places that make you feel home, that you can feel like you're your true self and that you feel the energy, you know. Get away from places that you don't feel, say, comfortable, you don't feel listened to, you don't feel respected. Get away from those places. I was in that job where I didn't feel listened to. I didn't feel respected. I was in that relationship. There was no respect there. I stayed in it for 13 years. People, if you can take anything away from it, get yourself out of these places that do not contribute to your growth and development. Invest in that coach, invest in that mentor, those books, those courses. Because the money might be, I'd say, a lot now, for instance. You never lose out by investing into yourself and your brain. And for me, the moment I say invested into myself, I realize that when you invest, you pay for speed. I spent 13 years in a job, 13 years of my priceless life. I would give everything I had to go back 13 years now. You can't buy time, people. So invest in that course, invest for speed, and get to where you want to go quicker. Because you can figure it out yourself. Good luck. It might take you 5 years, it might take you 10, 20 years. But if you invest in the guidance from someone that's already done it, they're going to get you there a lot quicker. You're going to get to your dream life so much quicker than by doing it alone. So I hope someone can take something away from this today. And I appreciate everybody for listening today. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you so much. This has been amazing. Look forward to partnering again. We'll collaborate. The next summit is going to be in April. So